Welcome to Scotland.
How far can $100 in Edinburgh get me during the Fringe Festival? $100 US right now equals about 82 British pounds. Scotland is part of the United Kingdom, so they use the British pound, but interestingly enough, the Scottish banknotes are different than the British banknotes. Scotland produces notes of £1, £5, 10, 20, 50, and 100. But £1 notes are very hard to find. £50 notes are also very hard to find. And £100 notes, believe it or not, are produced in Scotland, but not in England. Where does the word Edinburgh come from? Actually, it's correctly pronounced Edinburgh, not Edinburgh. And if you say Edinburgh here, you'll get a look from the locals. The original name actually was Dún Edin. Edin is the name of the area, and Dún meant fortress. But when the Angles invaded and took over, they changed their name for fortress, which was borough. So it became called Edinburgh, or Edinburgh, the fortress of Eden. This is the Gold Digger Latte with 24 karat gold leaf, saffron, and coffee, and honeycomb. Not quite what I thought it'd be. I didn't think it'd be honeycomb cereal, and I don't know how real that saffron is. I was more so expecting like a turmeric, like golden latte. This looks like a milkshake, like a cheap milkshake. Especially one that costs $9 US.
Well, that's what gold diggers do. They take your money. So, there you go. Lives up to expectations.
And I'll just get you a spoonful.
Yes, thank you so much. This is kind of like what your dad makes.
The food is quite delicious. Very interesting thing about Scotland is that it seems you don't really tip when you go out to restaurants. So what they'll do is they'll come and, charge your card and then just give you a receipt. They don't ask would you like the tip. They don't show you a menu that says press a percentage of tip. There's nothing where you sign and add a tip. It's very interesting. All of this 30 pence or $37 US. Now, I was talking to one of my friends, and he said that you can tip. You kind of go out of your way. If it's really good customer service, you might give a 10% tip. Other than that, you don't really tip here in Scotland. All right, we're going into our Airbnb.
And this is our key.
Old school Scottish key. Rooms go for about $250 per night. So Edinburgh has two parts, the old town and the new town. Right now we're at the cathedral and the Royal Mile. All that area is the old town. And that area was founded around 2,000 years ago. And they actually had a toll to get into the city. So when people came here, usually they stayed here and never left. These narrow alleyways, they call them the close. It's a close. This long street here is called the Royal Mile. It's because when the Queen of England arrives, she stays in here, goes to the church here, so hence they call it the Royal Mile. That's Adam Smith, the father of modern economics. In Scotland and in Ireland, you're gonna see this word crack a lot. And it's not crack like the drug, it's crack means fun or enjoyment here. That does not look Indian food to me. The national animal of Scotland is actually a unicorn. Here in Edinburgh, they didn't have a great sewage system. So when people would pee or poo, they would take their pee or poo, throw it out the window. But they were supposed to warn people below when they did that. But before they did, some people apparently didn't get the message, didn't get the warning. So they got the pee or the poo in their face. And that's where the word shit-faced apparently comes from. Oh, you got some horse shit right here. You may have heard that the two unavoidable things in life are death and taxes, except it was different for this lady, Maggie Dixon. She was born in the 1700s here in Edinburgh, and she was around age 20, her husband abandoned her. So she ended up having a relationship with someone else outside of marriage, ended up having a child, and that child ended up passing away. And she also concealed the child while she was pregnant. So those were all 4 crimes: to have an affair, to have a child outside of marriage, to conceal the pregnancy, and then the death of the child, they blamed it on her as well. So what they did was, here in the square, here in Edinburgh, they actually hanged her for all those crimes. For 30 minutes she hung. The undertaker, whoever, ended up driving away with her body, but found out that she was still alive. So he brought her back to be hung again. But as she was about to be hung again, a lawyer said You know what? She's already served her time. You guys have pronounced her dead. You checked her pulse. You signed her death certificate. So she was already dead. She's already served her time. And they realized that this lawyer was right. So they actually let Maggie go, and she spent another 40 years living in the city, technically dead, and she didn't have to pay any more taxes because she was technically a dead person. So that is how Maggie Dixon avoided death and taxes, and now they have a bar named after her. In the United Kingdom, you might see signs like this: busking, no busking after 9 p.m. So what does that mean? It's street performing. That's what busking means, no street performing. And it became a bit of an issue in England and also apparently here. They don't want you to do it after 9 p.m. I think during the Fringe Festival, they look the other way, but there you go. Very famous person here in Scotland is Robert Burns. He created the song, the farewell song that goes dun 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 dun. And he has a library right here, and I believe he was actually born right here behind me. Cool. So they actually have a holiday. It's called Burns Night here in Scotland, and it basically is food, drink, music, and they'll serve the national Scottish dish, which is haggis, which is basically the intestines of a sheep. Ugh. Right outside the Writers Museum here, there are some cool plaques of famous quotes from famous writers. This is an area dedicated to Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote Treasure Island and also Jekyll and Hyde. This is the house of John Knox, who is very important here in Scottish history. He believed the highest law was the law of God, and the highest book representing that was the Bible. So he encouraged people to learn how to read so they could read and understand the Bible on their own, which is a virtue in and of itself. The flip side of John Knox was that he was heavily chauvinistic. So he basically believed women were much lower than men. So high virtue in some regards, very low in other regards. Believe it or not, this is an actual real skeleton of what they call the giant deer. It's long been extinct, but these things used to walk the earth. Look at those horns. Wow. They even take tap cards instead of cash now. That is the Edinburgh Castle, built on top of this dormant volcano. One of 2 volcanoes here in Edinburgh. Then you've got Bristow Square. Nice fun area for everybody to hang out. Walking tour, £20 or $24. Is the grass market area of Edinburgh, very historic, also a UNESCO heritage site. 1 croissant, sandwich, a chai latte, cappuccino, 15.5 pounds or $19 US. This is kind of the coffee and drinks that we wanted earlier this morning. We came to a place called Macker's Mash Bar. The most traditional meal in Scotland is called the haggis. The traditional haggis is made with sheep's heart, liver, and lungs, cooked with celery, beef fat, oats, and spices. And it's actually cooked in the stomach of the sheep. This is a very traditional meal here, and it's eaten nationwide during Robert Burns' holiday, the famous Scottish poet. Now, ironically enough, the FDA has banned traditional haggis in the US because they consider sheep's lungs to be unsafe for consumption.
Well, the FDA has banned a lot of things that are not fit for
I'm not quite adventurous enough to go for the full haggis, so I'm gonna go for the mini haggis. Now, the meal also comes with some mash, which is what they call it. It's just mashed potatoes. I was about to order the Scottish black pudding, and then she looks at me and says, "Do you know what that is?" I said, "No." She says, "It's cooked blood." So I said, okay, maybe I'll go for the chili spicy mash instead. Okay, my mini haggis has arrived. It is potato and turnip, and there's beef inside, so here we go. It smells pretty good. It smells like a normal meal. Oh, look inside, you can see the beef. That's pretty good. I can see this being a good festive food. Also had a really delicious lamb. It doesn't look good, but it tastes amazing. This sauce is incredible. Here's a bee has gotten into my haggis as well. That food was 41 British pounds, and they asked for tip on the machine, so I gave them 10%, so it's 45 pounds, which is about $54 US. Okay, so we ran out of money, but technically there are two of us, so we should each get $100. So let's refill that balance just a bit. Any idea what a proper hamburger tastes like compared to a non-proper hamburger? I'm seeing signs like this everywhere. Lots of stores and restaurants looking to hire, asking for people to apply for jobs. You got the Waldorf Hotel here. And this area is the new town of Edinburgh. In 1706, the Brits and Scotland formed an alliance which allowed people in Scotland to travel to the United Kingdom more easily. So what did they do? Lots of the wealthy people started to leave Edinburgh to go for a better opportunity, better life. So what the city did is they created this new town of Edinburgh in order to attract people there so they wouldn't leave the country, but they would actually stay and come to this area. So a lot of the more famous, more wealthy people actually ended up settling in this area. And one of those famous people from Edinburgh is Alexander Graham Bell, who allegedly invented the telephone. So what happens when you do a great deed and you're from Scotland? They name a bar after you. So he actually grew up in this house, this is where he was born, and they've now turned it into a pub. One beer at the Alexander Graham Bar, 4 pounds or $5 US. Hey, we found a bookshop for lawyers, the Law Bookshop, all different kinds of legal law books, a haven for any lawyers like myself. It even kind of looks like a law bookstore. I don't know if it's a bookstore or a library. Kind of both. The right of personality. I guess that means the right to be yourself. For the personal injury lawyers. Decided to get this book, which has the history of different legal concepts, which is actually very fascinating. With the student discount, it's 18 pounds or $22 US. This is a little ironic. You got Viva Mexico, and then you have the wall. Maybe that's what Trump was talking about when he wanted to build a wall next to Mexico. And this is the World's End Close. Now remember, close means alleyway, it's like closed off. But the World's End is where the old Scottish town ended, where the gate was that basically led out of the town. That's why they called it the World's End, because your world was ending, at least your world in Scotland was ending, if you came to this area and left. And what do you do in Scotland with anything historic? You put a bar here. So you got the World's End restaurant and bar you can come visit. You know when the word organic came about and you started seeing organic food, even things like organic furniture? Well, here is the newest buzzword, climate positive. So you can now get climate positive alcohol, whatever that means. Underground city tour, 40 pounds or $48 US is where we go to the underground. We went to the underground tunnels of Old Edinburgh, and this is where people would hide out during the 11 outbreaks of the plague that occurred in the city. People would actually live down here. Also, those who came down with leprosy were put down here. There have been many accounts of ghost stories from this area. Crazy enough, during the second half of the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, they have the International Film Festival as well. As if you didn't have enough festivals. You got the Edinburgh Festival, the Fringe, the International Film. In Glasgow, you've got the Piping Festival. It's amazing. August is an amazing time to visit Scotland. There's a Social Justice and Human Rights Festival, I think going on pretty much now. There was also a political festival, which is going on now. So it's pretty clear to me they're just taking all these festivals, throwing it into 1 month and saying it's festival month here in Edinburgh. Here you have a farmer's market. And here you have a cemetery right next to it. 1842, 1854.
This has got to be the most unique setting for a farmer's market. Next to the deck.
Got these bamboo shirts and they feel amazing. I've never actually owned a bamboo shirt, but this feels amazing. I'm gonna start buying bamboo shirts. Bamboo shirt, 30 pounds or $36. Check out these old maps from the 1700s of the world.
Remember how what I told you?
Africa, New Holland with Australia. Didn't have the Western Hemisphere. They call this the Ethiopic Ocean.
All of this was Mexico. Texas, California, Nevada.
When was this?
In the 1830s? In the 1840s, that's the Mexican-American War.
This is weird. They have like security cameras. And normally you see a little small security camera that's unopposing. This one's like right up in your face. Hey, what's up? What's up? Check out the castle here, lads.